Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today on this Avodah Zarah daf Mem, we are going to begin on Lamed Tes Amud Beis by the new Mishnah. Says the Mastis. Ve'elu mutarin b'achilu. So now we have a list of things which are not only not asur b'hana, but they're even allowed to be eaten. Cholav shechovu evikachav v'Yisrael ru'u badvash. So when it comes to milk, just as long as, even though the akum is one milking the cow, but as long as the yid was watching him do it, then it's fine. Similarly, when it comes to honey, the honey of an akum is mutter, as the Gemara is going to explain why. And then the Mishnah says, Vaha duv devaniyos, which this comes from the clusters of grapes, afal pi sheme natfin, even though the juice is dripping, ein bahen mishum hechsher mashke. There's no isser or issue of hechsher mashke. We know that usually when there's a liquid, when it's yad shachadam, so the din is that it's makabel tuma. We're not concerned about that. We're also not concerned that it's wine. That came from the akum. The kvashim shein darken losses l'soichan yayin v'chaymitz. So this we learned out before, that not only is it that it's not normally done, but it's not the tradition, right? This was it was not their custom to sometimes add wine or vinegar. So there's no reason to be concerned if there's no custom to do so. And then v'tris she'enu trufa. If you have this fish, which is a whole fish, which is not chopped up, so in that situation, it's recognizable, the pieces of the fish, and that it's a kosher fish. V'tzir sheish daga, and also the brine which has fish in it. V'ola shel chiltis, and the leaves of the chiltis. In other words, as we said before, was an issue with it being cut with a knife, and therefore its noisin tam was shavach. Over here was not cut with a knife. V'zaysi gluskois hame Googling. The next case are these olives, says Rashi, Zaysim ha-chanusim b'kli agol. It's put into this round vessel. Omis chamamin. It gets warmed up. B'na'atzrin me'alehen ke'ein gluska. And it ends up like forming almost like a cake. Rav Yossi Omer hashlochen asurin. That if the pits came out, then it's asur. And Rashi says a zaysim kamahader, and is going to explain what exactly this is referring to. Hachagavim, when it comes to kosher grasshoppers, haboyimin hatsalula asurin. If they come, says Rashi, hanim chorim basal ifnei that they're in a basket in front of the store owner, then we are afraid that maybe there's wine in there. However, min hapisk mutarin v'chein l'truma. Heftik. Okay. So on the other hand, if let's say it comes from the entry, the store in which he sells these salty grasshoppers, it's mutter because he's not going to sprinkle anything on them. As we're going to see, he's afraid that maybe if it turns out that it's asur, he's going to lose all of his business. So too when it comes to truma, the Gemara is going to explain what that means. So it says the Gemara. So Tanino had a turn about milk. Yoshev yisrael b'tzad edroi shovik chachamim. So you have a yid next to the flock of an akum. So he can milk a cow. There's nothing to be afraid of. He's not going to give you pig milk. So there's no pigs around. So pshita, what's the whole issue? So am I? Why would we not be concerned? So if that's the case, why aren't we afraid? Because that when the yid is standing, he can see him. When he's sitting down, the akum cannot see him. Since he can't see him while he's sitting, he's going to mix in non-kosher milk. That when he can stand up at any time, is Irsuse Mirtos. The Akum is going to be afraid he's going to get caught. Therefore, Mumarbe is not going to mix. V'davash is mutter. Why? Davash l'may nichashol. Why should you be afraid of their honey? Imishom irvuvi. That maybe he's going to mix it up with wine. No. Mitzutsari. The wine's going to spoil it. Imishom b'shuli of the kachavim nechel kamoshu chai. Honey can be eaten raw, so there's no issue of bishul akum. Imishom geuli of the kachavim. If it's because maybe it was in a keli and it absorbed something in the walls and therefore it can come out. So nice and tamam gam hu mutter. Okay. And then the Mishnah said, "V'haduv davanyos." That when it came to these grape clusters, afal pi sheminat voice, even though they're dripping out juice, in behem mishum hechsher mashke or minhu. So the Gemara is not so satisfied with that right away. Haboiso gas, when it comes to a vat that you're involved in the process of making wine. So Shammai Oimer Huksher, Hill Oimer Lo Huksher. It's a machlokas, whether it's Huksher, Leinin Tuma, or not. So why would it maybe be Huksher? Says Rashi, because Nichle, b'mayde nafik minayu. Whatever comes out from it is something which is Nichle. V'oidili Hill L'Shammai. Then Hill eventually agreed to Shammai. So why is this not an issue over here? The Hassam, over there, Kaboyle Lamashka. You need the liquid. Hach over here, Lo Kaboyle Lamashka. He wants the food, he doesn't want the liquid, and therefore it's not a machshir. So it's a din of a b'chiyitain, b'chiyutan. There has to be something which is nichalei. But tris shena trufa, this fish which is not chopped up. Talking about nezuhi tris shena trufa. Kol sharosh v'shedra nicker. As long as the head and the spine are recognizable. Nezu sir sheshba daga. What is this example of the brine with fish? Kol shekilbis achas oshtei kilbis. As long as it has one kilbis or two kilbis, says Rashi, Gedilo mialeha, but sir dugim tahirim, that it's together with in the sear, like one or two. The yemi sham sir dugim tame ein kilbis gedilo boy. That basically, if it's dug tame, then this kilbis cannot grow in there. So therefore, if there's this kilbis, so that itself is a proof, one or two, that it's fine. Memam and Aleph. Shaitatais bow. So let's say it's swimming in the water over there, floating. So then it's fine. Ohashta kilbas achas amrid shari shtei kil baniyos meboy. I understand why I say one or two. Just say one. Well, kasha kan b'psuchais kan b'stumais. Depends if it's an open barrel or if it's a closed barrel. So if it's open, one is not enough, because maybe you can say maybe it fell from somewhere else, therefore you need two. If it's closed, one is enough. Itmar. Rav Huna Oimer ad shetei roish vishedra nikr. You have to have both. Rav Nachman Oimer o rosh o shedra, so it's either both or one or the other. So Moshe Rav Ukva Barchama v'dagim, when it comes to fish, kol sheish mos snapper v'kas kasas, which means you have to have both simanim. Says Rashi, Alma ein siman l'dagim b'davar acher. There is actually no other siman, so actually it's a kasha on both of them. How is this a proof? It's just, there's snapper v'kas kasas. We don't find any other simanim for fish. So Rabbi Kitanyahi ba'arma be'u falmuda. The Dambarishaihu Tameim. That's only if you have a situation where the head looks like a non-kosher fish. However, if it doesn't look like a non-kosher fish, then we're able to rely on other simanim. Rabbi Yehuda Mishmei De'ula. The whole machlok is l'tavo b'tzira. If it's dipped in juice, avol begufa, on the fish itself, divir kol aser. Actually, rosh v'shedra nikri, you have to have both. I used to dip it into this brine. The machlokas is l'tavo b'tziron of a beguf and never call aser. So actually, rosh v'shedra nikr. So b'tziron namilo matbulin. I don't dip there either. So Amar Papa Hilchasa The halacha is anshe hiroish v'shedra nicker shel kol achas ve'achas. Each piece you have to have both of them recognizable. Okay. Let's look at question 13. Be'u simanim atirin be'achila gufan shel dogim shel tris she'ena truf, which is not chopped up. Ve'u simanim atirin b'tavel b'tzira. So l'achal gufan, eat the actual fish itself, b'roish v'shilda shel kol chaticha v'chaticha. You have to have the head and the backbone of every piece. V'achal tziron Rav Huna kedin gufan, Rav Nachman o roish o shedra. Meisvei, so the Gemara asks like this: Chaticha is sheish behen siman. Let's have these pieces with proper simanim. Bein bekulan, bein b'miksasin, whether or even on some of them, mafil be'echad b'meish behen kumataris. Even if it's just on one of 100, doesn't need to be al kol achas v'achas. Umas sebov kachav mechad. So the story shehevi garav shel chatichais, that he brought a barrel of these pieces. V'nimsa siman b'achas b'hem. He found a siman in one of them. Es hargav kulo. He mocked it the whole thing. So Tirgum Rapapam. So he said, yeah, but when was this? It's kishe chatichais shavos. If the pieces all match up to one fish, therefore, then he would say it's acceptable just with one. Says Rashi, kishe mechabrin oyis and yacha. When you put them all together like a jigsaw puzzle, it's recognizable that it all comes from the same kosher fish. Okay, otherwise it needs to be al kol achas v'achas. Iachi malamer, what's the chiddush? Obviously, madatema nichash dilma as rami kamash malan. Right? Maybe it's not really one fish. Maybe it's different, and it just seems that way. Hu arva the sach nasa. So there was this ship. The Asi was Sikra, went to this place. Nafik Rav Huna bar Chanina v'chazabe kalfe. He saw that the fish had scales, and therefore Visharia, he considered this to be a dug tahar, and therefore he said it was kosher. Amli Rabba umi ika deshariche agavna ba'asra deshchichi kalfi. So this is a city in which there are a lot of non-kosher fish. Why aren't you concerned that maybe they're non-kosher, mixed in? So Nafik Shipuri the Rav of Aser. So he went out and he actually asered. Shipuri the Rav Huna Barachina B'Shari. Rav Yirmi Medifti Ladidi Amrli Rav Papi Kisha Rav Huna Barachina B'Tziran. He only allowed the brine of a begufan law, not the fish itself. Rav Ashla Dididi Amrli Rav Papa Kisha Rav Huna Barachina Feel Begufan. He even allowed the fish itself. Ve'analo Meser Va'ana Lo Miser Asrina. But we're not going to aser. The Kaimrli Rav Papa V'lo Mishra Sharina. The Aimerli Rav Yehuda Mishmei De'ula Machlekes L'Tavel B'Tziron. As we said, the whole Machlokes is only to dip it into brine. Of a Begufan, the fish itself, Tiber Kol Achehi Rosh Shedra Nikor Shel Kol Echad Ve'echad. So we see when it comes to the fish itself, we're more strict. Yosef Rav Chinana Bar Idi Kamei de Rav Adabaravo. Yosef, he was sitting Kaimer Avichavim Shehevi Ariva. Let's say you have an Avichavim which has a boatload filled, Malay Chaviyos filled with barrels. The Nimsais Kilbis Bachsman. He finds this kosher part of this fish in one of them. So Psucha is Kol Mutaros. If all the barrels are open, then we say all of them are mutter. Stumos, they're closed, we say Hi Muteras V'Kul Nasiros. Maybe the one which was closed, once you found the kilbus in it, that one is mutter, but nothing else. Armali Mana Lacha. How do you know this? Matlasa Kroi Shamili Marav Vishmuel Rav Yochanan. I learned it from basically these three. Doesn't mean three psukim. Rashi says Megimel Chachamim Gedailim Shehim Kedai Lismachlim Ke'al Hamikra. It's like the psukim themselves. That's how reliable it is to listen to rely on them. Amra Braina Imarav Kirbi Dagim V'arvan ein nichan elamin hamumche. When it comes to the innards of fish and also fish eggs, so the din is, says Rashi, beitzim sholahen. So the din is that you should only accept them from a dealer, someone who's a mumcha, an expert dealer. Rami le'ulol le'Rebbe dustoi demin biri medikaimerav kirvi dagim v'orvan ein nichan elmin amumcha mechal the dag tami islay uber. It sounds like non-kosher fish are capable of laying eggs. Raminhi dag tami mashritz. When it comes to a dag tame, it's mashritz. A dag tame is matal beitzim. So apparently, the only fish, at least in this thought process, this is what happens. They produce eggs, says Rashi. Oh, so sami mikan oivin. So right, you have to remove the fish eggs because that should be double pashit that they're tahar. Okay, armulei Reb Zarah lotismi tervayu. Do not remove them. Tervayu metilu beitzim ninhu. It's not true. Non-kosher fish also can have eggs. Elzem mashritz mibachutz, v'zem mashritz mibafnim. One's on the inside, one's on the outside. What does that mean? It says Rashi. Dag tahar le'achar shahutla beitzasai. After the egg is taken, mishretzes va'imenes mi'aleha b'chutz. It's on the b'choil. It puts it in the sand. Avol dag tami mashritz mibafnim. It's inside b'me'a'im, in the mother. Le'achar shnigmarim beitzav b'me'av. So basically, it lays eggs in the mother fish itself, as opposed to kosher eggs in which they kind of bury them in the sand. Okay, so zem mashritz mibachutz, v'zem mashritz mibafnim. So lamuli mumche. So I need an expert then. Livdek b'simonim, desanik simoni beitzim kach simoni dogim. There are simonim of a kosher egg. Of a kosher bird, so that should be the same thing when it comes to these eggs. Right, it's true, but simanim dagim, simani dagim saladaitach, simani dagim snapper b'kaskesav ksibhu. It talks about fins and scales. El kis simani beitzim just means like them. Kach simani oivri dagim. Ve'ilhein simani beitzim. So what are the simanim of an egg? Kol shikoideres gul gelois roisha echad kad roisha echad chad tahira. So if you have these eggs that are round, that one side of it is wide, the other side is pointy. That's kosher. Beis roshen chadin, beis roshen kedain tamei. However, if let's say both sides are the same, either both sides are wide or both sides are pointy, then it's a non-kosher egg. Chalmoin, the yolk, mibachutz, the chalmoin, the white part is mibifnim, on the inside, then it's tameya. Chalmoin mibachutz, v'chalmoin mibifnim tar. If the white part is on the outside, like a typical egg, you crack an egg, the outside is white, and the inner part, the yolk, is on the inside, that's tar. So chalmoin murabim zebazeh. What if the white and the yolk is mixed in? Zuhi beitzas hasheretz. So that's a beitz of a sheretz. So the kasha again is, whether you remember all these simonim, the point is these are the simonim of a kosher egg. So then why do you need a mumcha? So our answer is, you're right. Normally you wouldn't need a mumcha because you should just know these simonim. But Omer Rava kishinimuchu. We're talking about a situation where the eggs were crushed, and therefore you can no longer just analyze by looking at the egg what the status is. O Rabbi dustoi demin biri di'omer sami mekan oimer. According to him, he says that you should remove the this from the list because again it's l'chayra. You should just know the simonim, etc. Memum beis vosanya ki simani beitzim kach simani oimer dogim. So says Rashi, Alma yesh l'dogim oimer. We see that fish do give birth. So love tirutzi mitaretas law. We already answered this. Kach simani kiri dogim v'heich mishkachas misimani kiri dogim How do we understand? Where do we find the simonim of the intestines of the fish? Shehekach v'chad mishkachas la b'shilafucha. And the other one you can find in bladder. Im ein shel mumche el mai. So the question is, okay, so what if there's no expert around? So what are you allowed to do? You're allowed to eat the eggfish. So Rabbi Yehuda, kivandi omer ani milachtim mutarim. Since I said that if I sold it, then it is mutter. Says Rashi, hadagim v'isi shadagim mutaharin hein. They're kosher mehen hoitseisi kirbayim halolu. In other words, once I say that they're kosher, then that's enough. So we can trust you that if there's no expert and they're all crushed, you can ask the person who's selling it and say, yeah, they're kosher. He must actually show you the actual fish. These are the fish. It's not enough for him just to say, oh yeah, they're fine. So he showed once he just said that I'm the one that sold it, then it was mutter. Fine. So he said also it's mutter to eat when it comes to the leaves of the chultis, because we don't use a knife, and therefore we're not concerned of nois and tam l'shvach. So let's see the Gemara. So the Gemara says, pshita, obviously there's no knife here, glutzricha ala lekarti. We're talking about this grains, there's grains on the leaf, shabo. Madatema nichash dilma maisium arabe, that maybe take, it got mixed in, and therefore the knife was used and was cut. Kamash malan, daha ish taruki he dishtarak v'asa bahada. It actually, all happened was it fell from the leaf and not from the knife, and therefore you don't have to worry about it. V'zeisi galuskois hamigulgoen. So we said that these olives also are not problematic. They're fine. So why would you say there's an issue with these olives? Even though the olives pits are very, very soft and like slippery. So maybe the reason why they're so soft and slippery is because maybe they put wine on it, and therefore it's aser. It's actually just the oil that makes it smooth and soft. So he actually said that no, that when the pits come out, it's going to be aser. So hechidami shlach. What does that mean? So Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Chanina, kol she'oichse biyadai. If you're just holding in your hand the garinyasai nishmetes, and the pits slip through your fingers, and therefore because of that, then we are concerned there may be some wine in there. Hachagavim haboyin v'chul tanaban. Hachagavim, when it comes to the grasshoppers, farisin, and its husks, veha falutois, and leeks, haboyin min ha'oitzer. If all these different things come from an oitzer, from this storage house, umin ha'hiftek, or from where it was actually pressed, umin ha'sfina, or for that matter, if all these things came from a boat, mutarit. So in that situation, the din is that these things are mutar. Hanimcharim b'katluza, they're sold in the marketplace, in front of the store owner, then asurin. Then we are concerned. Because maybe what will happen is the akum sprinkles wine on them, as well as on grasshoppers, so it's usher. But not from the oitzer, since the akum waits to put wine on it until right before the sale, so that's why it's mutter. V'chein yayin tepuchim, so to cider, shalom nechachavim, haboyim min oitzer. The fact that it comes from the oitzer is not an issue, again, because he's not going to put the wine on it until it's right before ready to sell. So the fact that it's in the oitzer, in the storage house, we're not concerned that he put wine on it yet. Umin hapintak, umin hatsalula, Mutar hanimchar b'katluza asum shema arbin bo yayin. However, in that location, we're concerned in the, so Rashi says it's the katluza is the shuk. Once it's in the marketplace, when it's ready for sale, then we're concerned. Tanabam. Pamachas chash Rabbi b'meyav. So one time he wasn't feeling well. So apparently this was some type of way to remedy one's stomach pains. He wasn't feeling well. He gave him the cider. Was actually 70 years old. The Shalsi drank it, but it's rapid, and Ataka healed him. So you knew all this in your hands, and you wanted, and you were painting me. So you went to find this guy who has a special cider. Taka drank when it's rapid, and he was healed. He said, Baruch Hashem, that he gave this world over to have people watch it. It was able to be watched for that long. And it says, V'chein l'truma. So the Mishnah concludes, so too by truma. So my v'chein l'truma, what does that mean? So Amar Rav Sheshes, v'chein l'koyin, ha'chayish l'limchar truma l'shem chulin. What happens if you have a koyin, and we're concerned that he may end up selling food in which we don't know whether or not he's really selling truma, and truma is cheaper than chulin. So we're concerned that maybe that's what he's doing. So lafanav hu aser. If it's in front of him, it's aser. Avol habom min ha'itzer min ha'hiftik min ha'tzulul mutter. If it's in the storage house, we're not concerned. We're going to imagine that it probably is chulin, because after all, you're two simirtos. He's going to be very afraid. Savar shami be rabbanan umasadale minoi, because that even though the truma is worth less than chulin due to supply and demand, so he may try to act like it's chulin, but he's concerned that maybe the rabban will find out about this, and therefore, because of that, he's going to end up losing a tremendous amount of money. So therefore, when it's in the oitzer, we're not concerned. Okay, let's see question 14. Hachagavim haboyim min atsalula asurin min hafitak mutarin. Don't know how to pronounce that word. L'chein l'truma. L'may hilchos inyan truma. So what is that? So a kain is chayshid to sell truma and pretend it's chulin, and it's if it's in front of him, it's aser. Avobam min oitzer, as we said, it is going to be mutter. Let's see, maybe there's another question over here. Question TA. Let's see. Matay mutter lechol tzir shel dagim in chayshel adag tamei. So I got that wrong. So b'chavius stumois, if it's closed, b'yesh kilbas achas. B'ptuchais shtei kilbios. Whether it's open or closed, whether it's one or two. Question TB22 is a very difficult question. Mehem simani beitza tameya. What are the simanim of a non-kosher egg? So on this TB22, we said one distinction is that when it comes, if beis roisheha chadin ubeis roisheha kedin tameya. So one thing is if both sides are either wide or pointy, so that's a non-kosher egg. Also, if the chalmoin, the yolk, is on the outside and the chalboin is b'mifnim, that's another example of it being tameh. Let's see if we have another question. Matay moto echol tzir shel dagim ve'in chayshish l'dag tameh. So this, I had this answer as well. Adkan. Actually, before I say Adkan, let's finish the parak. Hadrun alach ein mamidin, hanoch ein mamidin, hanoch ein mamidin. We're going to continue the third parak. Kol hatsalomim asurin. All images are asur. We'll see that in tomorrow's daf. Adkan.